Yeah, we are live. Welcome to the Second Chance Live series, man. Y'all don't know, I brought some heat for you today with my guy, Issac Jones, man. He's a former pro turned finance expert turned just great man of God. And I've heard him speak on several occasions on the area of financial freedom. And he's packing gems, man. He really is. He's disciplined. He's excellent. So we're going to talk about what he learned as an athlete, how some of those skills have transferred to his success beyond the game, and then also just like how can we move forward in our financial lives? And so remember, the book is out right now, hardcover, softcover. Go ahead and check it out. Secondchanceathletes.com. Book order. If you just click book on the tab on the homepage, you'll see it. And guess what else? When you order today, you get bonuses. You get an exclusive access to me and my friend and top business coach, David Meltzer. You get a free copy of the ebook. You get the first 5 lessons of our Purpose Made Profitable course. And then you get something else that we decided to throw in there because we really want to incentivize people to get the book, because 100%, 100% of the proceeds are going for the first week. I got to make that clear. For the first week are going to support inner city youth programs. So you'll hear more about that tonight at the virtual launch party. But right now, I want to encourage you to host a watch party if you're watching on Facebook. If you're watching on any other platform, hit the share button. Let people know that this is someone you want to listen to. If you have any questions throughout this time, just drop them in the comments. Our team will collect them, and Issac will be able to field your question. Let me read his official bio. His drive and ambition is deeply rooted in helping others succeed, as you'll hear from him when he shares. Assisting clients achieve both personal and financial aspirations is what motivates him. His careful listening and thoughtful approach provides a captivating experience that fosters dependable and trustworthy relationships. The level of commitment and care for his clients is only matched by his work ethic and dedication to ensuring attainment of each mutually agreed upon goal. So well written, my friend. Issac, how you doing, my brother?
I'm doing well. On yourself?
Man, I'm on 10 if you can't tell. Like, I don't know if you saw the book over there or not, but it's kind of right there in the corner, man.
Yeah.
It's kind of surreal. It's a labor of love, man. And I'm praying that it just helps a lot of people around the world truly detach their identity from their work, find their highest purpose, and just live more fulfilled, man. But I'm excited to hear about your journey. Talk to us about who's Issac. How did you share with your athletic journey? And then how did that transition into what you're doing today?
I'd say a lot of kind of where I'm presently at is rooted in my upbringing. Parents moved our family from Tulsa, Oklahoma, where they were attending Bible school at Rhema Bible Training Center. And from that point, we moved to suburban Philadelphia, to where we were kind of born and raised. And parents started church when I was in 3rd grade. So they've had a ministry for well over 30 years, basically as long as I've been a kid. And from that, Dad kind of just taught me what a scholarship was, and took that page out of Moses' playbook, where he just talked about you can get an education for free on others, you know what I mean? How Moses was raised in the palace, you know what I mean? And from that point, they just really poured into us because I was a pastor's kid, right? So I was in church like literally 6 days a week. It started in our home. Did everything from ushering, to being in the doing offering, running the sound booth, parking, all that stuff. And by the time I was kind of growing in athletics, was able to get a scholarship out to Purdue University in West Lafayette, Indiana, where I had a chance to play with them all, some pros, some Hall of Famers, and got picked up following my career at Purdue as an undrafted free agent, and was able to play in the league for 3 years. And it was weird because I was at that stereotype where that statistic of being, the average NFL career is like 3.5 years, to where I got hurt following my 3rd season. Didn't have any fluid in my L4, L5, and I'm out in Seattle working out in the rain, of course. Got through OTAs, but when it got time to go to camp, man, my body just couldn't recover quick enough to be able to go for that second practice, you know what I mean, back to back on consecutive days. And so from that standpoint, I knew that in talking to the doctor, if I wanted to be able to pick up kids one day, you know what I mean, and live a pain-free life, that I had to kind of call it quits. And so that's really where I feel like the true journey started. And from there, at 26, forced to kind of retire in a sense. And that's when I went to the advisor that I had at the time. And I think he just kind of really made me feel as though if I wasn't willing to invest, a certain amount of money, that he just didn't have time for me. And from, humble beginnings and, really dealing with, church finances my whole life, you'd never really seen those kind of numbers, nor had that kind of knowledge or awareness of what, the market was, how it worked, and, who could help facilitate you achieving, goals or objectives beyond just playing football from a financial perspective. And so I started at the bottom, man, and just kind of learned for myself, making $26,000 a year, answering about 85 phone calls a day. And it kind of just grew into what it is now. But, having a younger brother who's 5 years younger than me, kind of following in my footsteps from being successful, Gatorade State Player of the Year in high school, high school All-American, goes to Tennessee, plays in the SEC, eventually gets drafted. I was determined really to not allow him to kind of fall prey to some of the potholes and mistakes that I had made from a financial perspective, from a career perspective, and just really taking my experience to help, pave the way for him so it could be a much smoother process and transition. And, that's really when things kind of morphed into, me meeting one athlete and then meeting another athlete and then meeting another athlete. And then, they slowly become, clients. But along the way, I can say that it became really more of a ministry and realized that it really wasn't about me. That God, I think, kind of took that pain to be able to now kind of give back, be a mentor. And I realized that I'm only in people's life to make a deposit. You know what I mean? We initially become engaged around, say maybe a financial scope, but towards the end, it becomes much more than that. And I've come to accept that, which is why, I don't beat my chest. I don't try to chase people down. I really believe that the people that I work with is divine. And so from that perspective, you can learn to trust God a lot more,
right?
Not have to rely on a lot of other mainstream channels to try to fulfill his purpose and plan for your life, because ultimately it's going to be what he has for you.
Yeah, that's true, man. There's a peace and a rest that comes from that. And, I know that there are people right now who like hear some of the humble beginnings that you've come from, and they're asking the question, oh, how do I get out of my rut? How do I get out of my hole financially? What would your advice be for a person who's kind of in that beginning stages of beginning to just change their financial legacy?
I say that one of the greatest things that, the Lord has kind of, put in the earth for us is, the aspect of vision. And when you can see, it brings, direction, it brings clarity. And you have to be able to have, that kind of foresight for your life, because that's what's going to essentially pull you forward and move in that direction towards those goals. And so you might say, well, I don't have anyone in my family to look at, or I don't have someone to stand by me and help me make these decisions. And I'm telling you that, you're going to learn that a lot of times you're not ever able to see the next logical step, but you got to take the first one. And sometimes that's just doing what it is to do. Like I have 1,000 books upstairs, in my bookshelf, but until I get to the point to where that one's coming soon.
You got one of these on your shelf?
That one's coming soon.
Okay, this is a good time to enter the commercial. If you got books on your bookshelf like Isaac, make sure you add the Who Am I After Sports. It'll help you discover your identity, your highest purpose, right? Isaac, purpose is, I believe, one of my core philosophies I share in the book is purpose is not what you do, it's why you do it. It's what drives you. It's what motivates you. It's the thing in which God put you on this earth and what you were created for. It's the only thing that you can do. Nobody can do you like you can do you. And there's a lot of people who say that they know their purpose, but typically they only know their job title. And so the book helps you to find that, and then to use transferable skills like Issac has that helped athletes be successful during the game to be successful beyond the game. And whether you're an athlete or a person in transition or just someone want to move your life forward, you can order the book and get access to all the book bonuses today. Boom. Because Issac is about to put one on his shelf. Ain't that right, my dog?
I like it. Listen,
okay, keep going.
I'll tell you this is that, what I didn't mention was like, the years of trying to find that direction, of trying to figure out what's next. And it took me, hearing a Chris Carter on television say that there's nothing that's ever going to replace football. And I was trying to find something equivalent to move or to make me feel the way I did about football, right?
Yeah.
That was an individual experience, but what I come to learn was that, man, my family, my passions, my pursuits, those were the things that would really fill and to go for my life. But to circle back and answer your question, I believe that you have to really be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard because, as you know, when you're trying to hang on at the tail end of your career, you have to really make some tough decisions. Do I keep training or do I go work?
Yeah.
Because I need to make some money because I'm not employed anymore. You have to have these honest conversations with your agent, about what the future looks like. And you're watching guys get drafted, you're watching free agents get picked up, you're watching the waiver wire, and you're having to make tough decisions about how long do I keep pursuing this? When do I transition? What does it look like? Do I have money? Most people don't realize that people who have given themselves to football don't have valid corporate work experience. So when they go interview, get hired, they're just now starting that process that people have already started several years prior. And even though you might have, a football resume and transferable skills, sometimes they want someone with more technical expertise in a certain area, right? So you have to overcome that deficit. But what I'll say is that do what you know to do. If you know that if you pay yourself first, right? If you pay your tithe, then you pay yourself first at every paycheck. Eventually, you'll slowly be able to get ahead, right? If don't spend more than you make, then that's where you got to start. And that's a grassroots fundamentals, right? God puts principles in the earth like seed time and harvest, right? That are like the laws of gravity. Makes sense? And so, do what you know to do. And that's going to get you to a point where now you actually have a little bit of surplus. But just in doing what you know to do, it's going to bring into focus what the next step for you is to take, which is now maybe let me get a little emergency fund. Maybe now let me pay down some debt, right? Just by making that one decision, it brings everything else into focus. And I don't think it's really as complicated as people make it out to be. It's like, well, do I need a will? And, what can a trust do for me? And, I'm out here trying to get this bag. And like, sometimes you have a simple plan, say, hey, listen, I'm going to work 2 jobs. And in working 2 jobs, that means I'm going to have to eliminate maybe a social life for a period of time. Let some friends go. It's going to put me in a position to where now financially, I don't got to sleep on someone's couch.
You're stepping on people's toes right now, man. You can't be doing that on my episode, man. Where my bill at? So Issac, I do public speaking, and so anytime people say stuff that I can steal, I'm just gonna hit that bell, man. I'm stealing that, man. It's so true what you're saying. I wanna kind of zone in a little bit. I kind of feel like this is something that we need to talk. And I've talked to a couple of pro athletes on here, and I'm curious to know your perspective. When you are even if you're just a college athlete, you're top 5% of all athletes in the world, right? You make it professional, you're top 1% of all athletes. You transition out of sports, and now you just went from top 1% in one industry to like top 99%. I mean, you're at the bottom. Even if you've got relationships, you might be at the middle of the pack, but you definitely don't start at the top 1%. And I'm curious, man. Was there an ego battle for you? Like, did you struggle with pride or feeling like, man, I'm not the man anymore? Like, what was that like? Because there's a lot of people who aren't even athletes, and I was talking to an executive who just got furloughed and was like, dang, man, I'm like, I don't want to start. Like, it took me a while to get up here, and so like, just take us back to that moment and what was it like?
Man, I'm hearing you talk and just get flooded with emotion because people see you, but they don't ever see your story until you begin to speak and articulate it. And um, I've always never liked being called Issac Jones football player. It's always
Mhm.
made me uncomfortable.
Mhm.
But that's the first way in which people like to relate or to associate with you. And for me, only playing 3 years was a point of shame, right? Because people was like, "Hey, you don't want to play longer," you know, or they make comments like, "You couldn't stay in the league," or "Yeah, most guys only play 3 years," and I'm like, yo, that stigmatized me for a little bit. That hurt, and I'm thinking like, you didn't even make junior varsity, right? You didn't even play high school sports, but yet, so I got people like
Yeah.
wanting to talk to you on this football level, like your mind can expand and understand things much, more complicated than the gridiron basics, right? And
Yeah.
so for me, I had to take something that my father kind of helped me to realize in college. It's Proverbs 23:7 says, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he."
Mhm.
So that became my life's mantra when I was in college, right? So people said, "Oh, he's just a possession receiver," but you know what? I never got caught when I've been in the open. People say that no one succeeds where you come from, right?
Mhm.
Was able to get out and still come back and live in an even nicer neighborhood than I grew up in.
Mhm.
You know, People say that they're gonna say whatever they say, but you got to truly believe, right, that who you are is what God says you are, right? That you're
Mhm.
not how people define you, and that is what's gotten me through. It's not always easy, right? Because you have some barriers to overcome. I had to pass these securities exams, and as you know, there aren't that many brown faces when it comes to financial services or wealth management. So
Mhm.
just think about every room that I walk in, I'm the minority the
Mhm.
majority of the time.
Right.
Some people don't even know I'm African American until they meet me face to face,
Mhm.
right? And so, unless I know who I am, unless I know who my God is, unless I'm confident in my ability, right, understanding it's more about purpose, then
Mhm.
it's going to be really discouraging to want to move forward in an industry that's already, set up to not be receptive to people who look like me.
Mhm. Mhm. I love that you're kind of going down that route, and we can take it there for a second. I don't want to get off on a rabbit trail, but I know there is this tension between systematic racism or just prejudices and what statistics say about the likelihood to be successful as a minority male, or just any minority. But then there's also this element of faith and purpose and calling that is real too. And it's a tension. I'm not saying that law change and systematic changes can't make an incredible impact, but you know that your faith can move mountains. And so like I'm curious, like how have you been able to combine this tension of like, man, the odds are kind of stacked against me. I get double looks, but I still have to try to land this client. And how have you been able to succeed in spite of some of the odds and even some of the uh I'm trying to use a good politically correct word, some of the challenges. There we go.
I mean, I'll say this is that I've really kind of taken that approach, from football and applied it professionally.
Hmm.
No one gives you anything in corporate America. I mean,
That's true.
they may try to exploit your background, exploit, what popularity you might have in certain circles, right, for
Hmm.
the gain of the company.
Right.
You come along for the ride, but really, I think just from failing, in some regards, being naive, not thinking, oh no, man, like everybody, that's not like, that doesn't happen here.
Mm-hmm.
Having to walk through some things to kind of get woke to realize that, no, wow, it's been like this entire time.
Right.
But I think it's been more of a connectivity with, God, this is what you've called me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And understand that if I can't have you be with me, then I don't want to go, right? Like I don't want to go through high to exit football. I don't want to live through another 5 to 7 years trying to find myself. And along the way, man, the Lord created some opportunities that had just blown me away.
Mm-hmm.
Like random phone calls, and they're just like, "Hey, I'm looking for somebody, and do you have time to talk?" And then it turns out to be, something 10 times greater than what you initially thought at the outset.
Mm-hmm.
To doors being open that at pivotal times, like when you're ready to hang it up. I can't tell me time to tell my wife, "Hey, look, in 2 years, if this ain't where it needs to be, or at a certain point, then I'm just going to transition and move on." And lo and behold, sometime before that man God opened the door, and before you know it, you're like, find yourself in TV, or find yourself, in a penthouse somewhere talking to someone you never thought you'd be sitting in front of, or
Mm-hmm.
your phone rang with a phone call, and that's energizing to keep going. The guy's like, "Nah, I'm in here tomorrow, and you just don't see it today."
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
just impressed me over and over. And I try to tell people, I said, man, the Lord is so into your tomorrow. He's so into your day after tomorrow that, like, you just got to keep walking the path, and you're going to see it, right? But how many times do we give up just short of being able to
Mm-hmm.
experience all the things that we've been, praying and believing for? And then some of it too, lastly, I got to say, is that some of us can't be afraid of work,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people say, I'm on my grind, but they don't really want to work, right, to attain that kind of level of success. And the truth of the matter is that being a CEO is not all glitz and glamour. The decisions you have to make that affect people, being able to have that type of vision and foresight to see what's going to happen 5 to 7 years in the future, and make decisions today,
Mm-hmm.
is not all easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy. So I shepherd the relationships that the Lord puts in my life. I got to the point to where I said, "Hey, listen, I'm going anti-Wall Street. I don't want 1,000 clients, right?" Like, and I think I told you this. I want the right 70 to 100, because you
Right.
can't quite fully invest. You can't quite fully be available. You can't be accessible to 1,000 people. And because this is such a divine relational thing, God's going to, like, I'm going to do what I do with Gideon. I'm going to give you just a handful, and that handful is going to blow your mind and allow you to experience things far greater than what you could have in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. And man, I love for you to talk about. You've had the opportunity to work with some very high profile clients with big portfolios. What have you learned from working with some of these portfolios that maybe someone in the same industry could learn from?
You'd be surprised that sometimes the people who are decision makers, we think they have all the answers. Because
Yeah.
they're successful in one arena, you think that holds true in other aspects of their life, right? That's been one eye-opening experience. I think another is that oftentimes what is not said is more important than what is said.
Mm.
And learning how to listen,
That's good.
how to discern what's really being said or what needs to happen has been the hardest skill of my job.
Yeah.
Being able to establish that transfer of trust. How do you gain credibility in 30 seconds, right?
Mm.
How do you overcome implicit bias? Because people are like, "Oh, you're Isaac," and they're thinking you're going to come in, getting dropped off by a limo, and you're going to come in this $5,000 suit, and you show up with just a blazer, and you're like, "It's me," and then talking, they realize why you're there. And I've seen that time and time and time again. But also too is that there's been a common thread of very successful people,
Mm-hmm.
very perceptive, they're very detail oriented. there's structure in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's awesome to have a front row seat to that, because I steal and I glean, like, how can I continue to improve myself? And I'm able to kind of get some behind the scenes access to be able to witness, what people are doing. But also too is like, man, here's what like the wealthy are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I'm in this field, but it's such a learning. It's very fluid for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That as trends and things change within the industry, it's great to see, hey, here's someone's perspective or mind on the market. Here's someone's perspective and mind on family and generations. And it's like watching the scriptures come to life, man, when you realize that real estate was so important because the children of Israel were slaves. If they didn't have that, then, they were forced to have to live a life of labor.
Right.
So being able to transition land from one family to the next generation was like huge.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so for me, being able to now come back and enact some things in my own life, but also have that same eye-opening experience, be able to share that with other families so that they can set their family on a course, is what is like phenomenal. So,
right.
Sit in those meetings, being able to access those people, you get a chance just to see how hard people work, and the weight that they carry, right? There's a certain level of responsibility that they have based off the number of assets and the number of engagements and involvements that they have, right? And so to be involved in the inner circle is a huge responsibility.
Yeah, man. What would you say you're the most passionate about?
Connecting with people. And I say that because I feel like for a long time, I never knew if people really liked me because I played ball, or if they just was down with you because they thought you were just a cool dude.
Right.
So I lived my life kind of legalistically, in a sense, right? Whether it was dating or whether it was like, people hiring you, like, what's the motive? Like, oh, like you want me because you're trying to, expand market share in an urban area, or, we need diversity on the board. You like, you want someone to see you for your skill set. Like, no, he's intangible. Like, we need this individual. And so I think really connecting with people, because I don't really have very many surface relationships. All of them are deep rooted, right? And so for me, I think just the ability to connect with people, I don't care what it is. I think I live my life is that I'm going to try to connect around something that is important to you. And that's always the starting point. Being able to connect with people, man, because when you have, the Bible says, out of the issues of life, right, it flows from the heart, right? So when you connect, man, it's on a heart level, and you'd be surprised from that point. Yeah, I got people asking me, where should their kids go to school? I don't even live in Milwaukee. They value my opinion, expertise.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. They want to know my thoughts on that matter. Why? Because I got down to that core layer. You know what I mean? And so that's what resonates with me. It motivates me to go from a stranger to like a confidant. Dude, that's a high for me.
Yeah. And that's good. I think my last question before we let people know how they can connect with you or follow you or hear more about you or not, right? How do you manage? Because I would say I'm the same way. So this is more of a personal question, right? So I'm, and I think maybe it has something now here, listen to you share. It probably does have something to do with the whole athlete upbringing and all that, because people do, and you tend to put these guards up and these filters of trying to just honestly just be patient and see what people's real motives are, right? Because if you outweight people, they'll show you. But how do you manage, deep relationships and who gets access and how much? I mean, obviously, family, always gets priority, but beyond that, how do you really steward those relationships?
Man, there's some practical things, and I feel like there's a spiritual application as well. I think, practically, you're always looking to address needs in real time. Some things I'm able to kind of, keep on a revolving, schedule. of making sure I stay in front of certain things, certain opportunities, certain, important dates, things like that. But it's funny when something's important to you, right? It doesn't require a lot for you to have to put forth effort to want to follow up and do something.
Mm-hmm.
What's been valuable has really been the Holy Spirit. Something, and it's just like, send Darryll a text,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and man, they're like, I was just thinking about you. Reach out. I learned to follow and trust that.
Yeah.
It could be at a red light. Sometimes it'd be on a walk with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it just be when I'm, laying in bed at night, someone will come to mind, and I learn to act on it. But what I do is on the front end, I try to find out what's important to people.
Mm-hmm.
And when you know what's important to people, then it's easy to be able to now understand what's the best way to communicate with them. And when you understand what's the best way to communicate to them, what's important to them,
Mm-hmm.
now sometimes you can predict, but you can anticipate even better.
Right.
And so that's how the Lord has wired me mentally. I think naturally, I have a great support staff, I have a great support family. And I've been doing it long enough now to where I can go back through old notebooks and things like that and see things that I wrote down a long time ago, about a person's kid or what they were going through at the time that I met them and recall that,
Right.
But, practically, I think it's just each time that I talk to someone, because I don't have like thousands of people that I have to be responsible for, you're able to get a new current update on where people are at and what's going on. You just keep updating that file.
Mm-hmm.
And that allows me to kind of maintain a pulse of what's going on in people's lives.
Yeah, I love it, man. And I obviously appreciate your support of our book launch and your coming on, sharing your story, all of your wisdom, man. If somebody is like, I like this guy, man, he's got a lot to offer, how can they find out about you?
Yeah. So professionally, I'm at Odyssey Capital Advisors. So go to odysseyadvice.com. You can find me on Instagram, IDJ06. And from there,
you don't be on Instagram, man.
I'm not listen, I'm on there, but I'm not on there.
He posted like one time this year, man.
I'm on there, but I'm not on there.
We're gonna send him to Odyssey. There we go. Odyssey, man. We gotta get you putting out some content, man.
We gotta do a part 2, because the one thing that I really wanted to mention,
go ahead,
is really just how what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Implicit bias, known obstacles, how to overcome them. It really plays into how you view yourself. But also, I think when you grow up that way, I think sometimes you compartmentalize some things. And from a mental health perspective, unless you can learn to liberate some of those ideals, unload, unpack some of those thought processes, that stuff will carry into like your employment.
Right.
It'll overflow into your relationships, and you wonder why, like, you might be just as good, right? But sometimes they always select someone else.
Yeah.
Or you can only get to a certain point in relationships, and that's what I've come to, embrace at 44, is that, man, I had to come to realize why do I view some things the way that I do? It goes all the way back to growing up in church, or what my grandmother told me when I was a kid, or, facing the fear of rejection, right? And it being humiliated publicly, right? Like I said, like I played in the league, right? No one in my neighborhood did, but why do I feel like it's embarrassment to say that I played for 3 years? That's shame. That just goes along with it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You gotta come back and just talk about that aspect at some point in time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's so funny. We started out doing this series, and we went back and forth on what do we call it, because I launched a podcast too. And I was like, do I call it the same thing as the podcast? And it was like, man, I think you should just stick with Second Chance Live, focus on athletes and people who are connected to the sports industry. And I'm like, okay. And I kind of reluctantly listened to my team. And then we started doing it. And it was just like, man, this is right. This feels right. Yeah. And then now it's to the point where we're booking guests. Like, I mean, I just saw someone in November, December, and it's like, okay, so like this is something that we're going to continue to do beyond just promoting the book, but because these are meaningful conversations that need to be had. And I like the live aspect as well, because it allows us to interact with people. It allows, I don't know, there's different. So when I do my podcast recording, I notice a different energy, I guess. And it's good when I do it that way. But when I do it live, it's just almost like you can like feel people watching and listening and tuning in, and you kind of just get directed in that area. So, man, I would love to come back and do part 2 where we talk about that aspect, man. And man, I just want to say, man, you, from the first time I met you, man, you just been nothing but a servant, and always willing to help, very genuine and authentic. And it was refreshing to see that, especially, when you didn't have to be that way. Right. And I just want to say thank you, man, for who you are and the disciplines that you go by on a daily basis to be able to maintain and pursue that humility and really keep your heart guarded. So thank you for that.
No, thank you. And I say, man, congratulations on everything you're doing. It's impressive. I get motivated, seeing you online and what you're doing, and keep it moving. I think that's the greatest reward, is that, you're going after something that's true to you, and right, you're raising the bar. But only thing we can't see is who we're affecting sometimes in real time. But man, keep going forward. I support you, and I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Y'all show Isaac some love in the comments. And if you're watching the replay, we want to say thank you for tuning in. Make sure you head over to secondchanceathletes.com. Check out the book packages and everything we're doing. Remember that 100% of our proceeds for the first week are going to support inner city youth programs. So make sure you don't just buy yourself a copy, but you buy your favorite team a copy. This is a gift that can help anybody who is an athlete, who know that they're going to transition. How about preparing them for what they're going to face so that they don't have to go through some of the lows that me and my friend Isaac went through. Or if you know a former athlete, everybody knows that guy or that girl in high school who was like the man and the woman, and then they didn't make it to play to the next level, whether that was because of lack of fatherlessness, or because they didn't have the right guidance, mentorship, resources. They could have just made a bad decision. That's why we branded our organization Second Chance Athletes, because our God is a God of second chances, and second chances exist so we can finish strong. So go ahead and check that out, and make sure you stay tuned for our next guest. Jorge, my good friend, he's a former professional soccer player, has a phenomenal organization that uses the platform of soccer to teach life skills and godly principles. You guys are going to learn a lot from him. He's one of those people that when you listen to him, you get convicted. He just sounds like he got it all together. So join us again for that. And remember, the book launch party is tonight, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. We've got Cassius Tay, who's going to come on and perform for us and give us some entertainment. We've got my former teammate and NFL player, Dan Lefevre, who was being compared to Tim Tebow coming out of college. We've got another former athlete, Dominique, former NFL player, who's going to come and share his story and what he's doing as an organization. You're going to hear from me in the grand finale. If you've got purpose inside of you, if you know that you're created for great things, you're going to want to hear my pastor and mentor talk tonight, Pastor Travis. He's going to talk about being destined for greatness. So tune in tonight. Love you guys. Until next time. Peace.
Thank you.